this evening we shall discuss 5 benefits of walking meditation. The last disciples of the Buddha, Venerable Subhadda, attained the highest stage of enlightenment and became an arahant during walking meditations. When mindfulness meditators are able to practice walking meditation well and carry forward the mindfulness and concentration from the walking into the sitting meditation, then most likely meditators will have a good sitting. So it's important to take walking meditation seriously. Sometimes meditators may consider to walk more than an hour, especially the mind is quite sluggish. So the 5 benefits of walking meditation are one is able to walk a long journey by foot. Then the second benefit, one is able to endure exertions. Exertion means one is able to put forth strenuous effort into practice. One is endowed with the quality of perseverance. As you know, it's the nature of some people like to stay still and sit idly. Not willing to do even some physical exercise and mental work. But in the practice of meditation, one needs to put forth a great deal of mental effort. But meditators have to increase the mental effort gradually. So when a mindfulness meditators training himself, herself to walk for a long time, it means that he has this he's willing to endure exertions. So because of walking, the mind becomes more alert. Alert means more watchful. I mean more watchful. In other words, is able to perceive or to become aware of the arising of the object instantly. So the walking makes the mind active and alert. So it's because meditators like to walk. It also shows that he or she willing to put forth the utmost effort in meditation or in mental training. So it is important to take walking meditation seriously. So when meditators could practice walking meditation well, they could again good experience or clear insight into the true natures of mental and physical phenomena, the relationship between the mind and the body movements and actions. So meditators have to train themselves to slow down the walking gradually. So whenever you practice walking, you need to perceive the movements well and make a mental noting, such as lifting, pushing, dropping. So in other words, meditators must perceive or realize there's a process movements, then they make mental noting. So as they slow down gradually, then they will be able to mindful and note every process of movements in more details. When the mindfulness is not well developed, meditators could not perceive the process of movements from the beginning to the middle until the end of that process of movements. But when meditators could slow down gradually and increase the effort, then they will be able to mindful and note attentively, precisely. Meditators should not purposely exercise some degree of control over the process movements and the process mindfulness, so that he or she is able to synchronize the movements with the noting mind. If meditators exercise some degree of control over the process movements and the process mindfulness, then they could not realize clearly the relationship between the mind and the movements. Meditators could not realize that both processes are a natural process. So when meditators could slow down the movements gradually, then we may instruct the meditators to be more attentive. So meditators may note every process movements more than once. For example, lifting, pushing. But it's important to perceive the movements well and make one or two additional noting. If meditators could not perceive the movements well, but merely make a mental note in the mind, then meditators are not meditating. Merely saying the words lifting, without perceiving the actual process movements, meditators are not developing mindfulness. So similarly, when meditators are mindful of the movements of rising and falling of the abdomen, they must perceive the actual process movements and make the mental noting. So when meditators could slow down gradually, they would be able to mindful and note every process movements in more details. In other words, they come to realize, for example, a process of lifting movements is not a single process, but it consists of various process of movements of lifting. There's lifting process, arising and passing away, then there's another lifting process, and so on. Then when mindfulness getting stronger, meditators may come to realize that the movements is preceded by the intending mind. If there's no intention, then there's no movements. So this intention is also a natural process. There's intention before every process movements. But when mindfulness is not yet sharp enough, meditators could not perceive the intention. The intention is a mental state. It's not a physical process or physical sensation. Some meditators realize that when there's a tightening of the muscle, or they feel some sort of physical force at the foot, then they take it as an intention. That actually is not intention. Intention is a mental state or mental process. It's not a kind of force felt physically. If meditators could not perceive the intention, then they should not make any mental noting. Sometimes meditators could perceive that before the intention, before the arising intention, there's another intending mind. We usually note it as one thing. For example, when meditators could mindful note standing few times, sometimes they realize there's a mental state of wanting to walk. So sometimes meditators could not know it, merely perceiving it, because the mental state of intention or wanting mind are arising and passing away very instantly. So it's enough to be mindful or to perceive it as it really occurs. But sometimes meditators are able to note it quick enough. Then they may note intending, then there's movements arising immediately. So when meditators could slow down more and more, they realize there's an intention before every process movement. So when meditators could realize the intention well, they come to realize the relationship between the mind and the body movements and the actions. Similarly, meditators need to slow down in their daily activities at the suitable time and suitable place. When they could slow down deliberately, they come to realize the action is preceded by wanting mind, and an action or an activity such as paying homage to Buddha begins with the desire or wanting to pay homage. So this activity consists of various processes, movements. When the mindfulness is sharp enough, meditators come to realize that every process movement is preceded by intention. So meditators come to realize that there's no self or even a person or yogi behind this intending mind. The intending mind also has the characteristics of impermanence, anicca or dukkha, unsatisfactory, and anatta, or no self. So only meditators could realize the specific characteristics or the individual characteristics of the material elements clearly. Then they begin to realize the intention. When meditators are able to mindful and note every process movements involved in the walking meditation and daily activities, they come to realize movements clearly. Movements as movements. Then meditators come to realize that every process movement is preceded by intention. So when meditators could realize movements and movements clearly and other material elements clearly, they come to realize that they come to realize clearly the relationship between the mind or the mentality and physicality or materiality. So I did explain about it in the previous talk. Sometimes the arising of the mind or consciousness is dependent on the material phenomena or physical phenomena, but sometimes the arising of the physical phenomena, in other words, movements, is dependent on the mind. So when meditators could see it clearly, they come to realize that the interdependence of the mentality, the state of interdependence of mentality and physicality. So the commentaries explain that mentality, the mind or consciousness has no efficient power. It cannot occur by its own efficient power. So in other words, it does not eat, it does not drink, it does not speak, it does not absorb any postures. So our mind can't eat, can't drink, can't speak, can't sit, walk, lying down, standing. Similarly, if the materiality of physicality is alone, then materiality of physicality is without any efficient power. It cannot occur by its own efficient power. It has no desire to eat. In other words, the body doesn't have any desire to eat. It has no desire to drink. It has no desire to speak. It has no desire to absorb any postures. So in other words, without the mind or consciousness, the body can't eat. The body has no desire to eat. The body has no desire to drink. The body has no desire to speak. The body has no desire to absorb any postures. But when it's supported by materiality or physicality, then mentality occurs. And when it's supported by mentality, then physicality occurs. So in other words, when the mentality or the mind or consciousness has the desire to eat, or has the desire to drink, has the desire to speak, or has the desire to absorb postures, then the materiality, there's the materiality eats, the materiality drinks, the materiality speaks, the materiality absorbs the postures. So they rely on each other. They have to support each other. If one is alone, one cannot function. One has with its own efficient power. So the commentaries explains with a simile, like a man who is born blind, and a crawling creepers. So a man who is born blind can't go anywhere alone. Similarly, these crawling creepers also can't go anywhere alone. But when they cooperate with each other, then they can go to any place, any destiny that they desire. So the one who is born blind, like the body, and the crawling creepers, like the mentality, in other words, the mind or the consciousness. So when one could see clearly, then one will gain a better and better understanding of the karma. Then one realize the cause and effect, of one's actions. One has to take responsibilities of one's own actions. So when meditators could see intention clearly, the wanting mind clearly, then they would make more progress. And The third benefit of walking meditation is one becomes healthy. And the fourth benefit, what one has eaten, drunk, or consumed is properly digested. And the fifth benefit, the concentration attained through walking meditations is long lasting. So when meditators take walking meditation seriously, they could gain a clear experience of insight knowledge. They come to realize a series of broken movements, and the movement is preceded by intention, and all these phenomena are subject to instant arising and passing away. So meditators, when meditators could practice the walking meditation well and are able to be patient, walking slowly, very mindfully to the place of sitting, sit down as slow as possible. If they wish to pay homage to the Buddha, they do it very slowly, mindfully. Then settle down with mind on the seat mindfully. Then they have a good foundation. They have a strong mindfulness to begin the sitting meditations. Actually, there are many objects of walking meditation, but sometimes if meditators wish to increase the object, for example, be mindful of the touching, pressings. Ideally, they should walk with barefoot. So when meditators could slow down gradually, they would perceive the touching clearly. Then there's a pressing. So they may mindful, lifting, pushing, dropping, touching, pressing. When the mindfulness is getting stronger, it comes to realize lifting process consists of two different processes. There's a lifting the heel, raising up the toes, then be mindful pushing, dropping, touching, pressing. When they could slow down more and more, they come to realize, for example, lifting movements consist of 2-3 processes or 3-4 processes. Every process of lifting is arising and passing away. Then there's another process of lifting and pushing. Lifting, arising and passing away. When the mindfulness is getting stronger, they come to realize there's intention before the lifting process. There's an intention before the raising process. Then there's lifting intention rising before the pushing. There's intention before dropping. But there's no intention before touching. When you put your foot down, even there's no intention, the foot you touch the floor naturally. So the intention before touching is not important. There's intention before turning, movements, and so on. So during meditation, it's important to pay bare awareness or attention to every phenomenon. Meditators should not expect something or an experience. If there's an expectation, that expectation may hinder the process of mindfulness or bare awareness. So these are meditation teachers explain that with a simile of scientific research. The teacher, the meditation teacher, say that a commitment to truth is recognized, but so is the necessity for a mind detached from the results of research, detached from the wish for a particular outcome. For it is known that if the scientist is searching for one particular scientific result, he or she might unconsciously manipulate the experiments or observations in order to obtain that result. So similarly, meditators should train themselves to develop bare awareness or pure mindfulness. Meditators do not manipulate the practice or expecting to see something. For example, sometimes some meditators in other retreats were told that they could see something at the end of the process of rising movements, or they could see something there at the end of the process of falling movements during walking meditation, during sitting meditation. So when they were giving an idea that they should see something at the end of process of rising movements, at the end of falling movements, then they could not stay at the present moment, because they have strong desire or wish to see something at the end of the movements. But meditation is we could only gain experience or realizing some inside knowledge when the mindfulness is getting stronger and concentration is getting deeper. So one of the book on the practice of four foundations of mindfulness, the title is The Way of Mindfulness, written by Rebus Somatera. He said that, I quote, he said the aim of the meditation teacher is to lessen the conceptualizing proclivities of the meditators and lead him towards appreciating or realizing the nature of the thing or the nature of phenomena. Mindfulness meditation, the tendency of quite many meditators is to analyze or to conceptualize the experience or to expect something. But remember Somatera said that in his writing, the aim of meditation teacher is to lessen the conceptualizing proclivities of the yogi and lead him or her towards appreciating the nature of the thing. This he does by encouraging bare of pure awareness, and letting the nature impermanence and other characteristics of the mental and body objects become clear by means of concentrated attention. It's because the true understanding of reality, the ultimate realities, must be based on profound personal experience. So if meditators have the tendency to analyze or to conceptualize the experience or expect to see something, then they may not able to develop bare awareness or pure mindfulness. So similarly, during walking meditation or the practice of sitting meditation or daily mindfulness of daily duties, meditators need to develop mindfulness from one movement to next movement without thinking about the object, without thinking or contemplating on the characteristics of the object. Meditators merely paying bare awareness of pure awareness, mindfulness to every process of the object. So only meditators could develop mindfulness in this way. When there's deeper concentration, then there's a realization arising by itself. So it's important to develop this bare awareness of pure mindfulness during the practice of four foundation mindfulness. So this walking meditation is very important to the progress. Is because during walking meditation there are various process of movements. The mind will be able to follow the process movements easily and develop more and more active alert mind. If meditators like to sit for a long time, and sometimes the mindfulness or the mind becomes more passive, not active. So when the mind is getting passive, then it's not conducive to progress. In the practice of mindfulness meditation, meditators should develop active concentration. In other words, the mind is actively mindful and concentrate from one moment to next moment, from one object to next object. Meditators like to sit for longer and longer period of time. Sometimes the mindfulness is not active. Sometimes there's a tendency to stay quiet or idle. So walking meditation is very helpful to the progress of meditation. And the most important aspect of practice is mindfulness of daily activities. As you know, there are three aspects of practice during the retreats: sitting meditation, walking meditation, and mindfulness of the daily activities. We emphasize the importance of mindfulness of daily activities because when meditators could practice well, then the mindfulness becomes more constant and continuous. They could realize the relationship between the mind and the body movements and actions. So when they could practice well the mindfulness of daily duties, most likely meditators also could make progress in walking meditation and sitting meditation. So when meditators could realize every process movements clearer and clearer, eventually they could also realize the characteristics of other material elements clearly. Then they will begin to realize the mind or the arising of the mind or consciousness. They could see that the consciousness which is arising dependent on the material phenomena will become clearer or more evident. At the beginning of practice, meditators could not see the arising of consciousness, such as the touching consciousness, hearing consciousness, and so on. So this walking meditation is very beneficial, especially to develop stronger and stronger effort, or to develop this quality of perseverance, able to endure exertions, as meditation requires a great deal of mental effort, but meditators need to increase the effort gradually, then they would make more progress.